Over the years, the Criterion Collection has put out a bunch of contemporary and classic films with a bunch of bonus features and a proper restoration. It's pretty obvious to see why film nerds flock to this collection, and considering that most of the films they put out are critically acclaimed or loved by audiences, there's one film that's a little bit different, and that is Jellyfish Eyes. Sitting currently with a 4.7 out of 10 by users on IMDb and a 34 out of 100 on Metacritic, it's a little odd to see why Criterion would be interested in such a film. The film is the feature directorial debut of Takashi Murakami, who's most notably known for his artwork and sculptures, and it follows the story of Masashi and his mother moving into a new town. While there, he befriends this little creature. One day in school, he finds out his classmates also have similar creatures that is controlled by these devices that, unbeknownst to them, collects their negative energy for this kind of like evil cult. There's a lot of themes in this movie that is really interesting, and it's really kind of strange to be for a kids movie. There's a lot of environmental hazardous themes in this movie. For one, the evil cult is like this research facility collecting all this negative energy, and there's a lot kind of bad things going on in the world. It's pretty obvious to see the film is inspired by something like Godzilla or Ultraman. A lot of people blame the research facility for a lot of the health effects that are happening in the area. Some of the boys are talking about their asthma being bad, headaches, nosebleeds, and things like that, and they all blame the research facility. And since Sashi's related to someone who works there, he kind of gets bullied quite a bit throughout the school. Basically, these creatures, these kids use them to fight each other, and they want to be the strongest. And Masashi just kind of wants a friend in his, even though he throws it off a tree for some reason. But the film overall is enjoyable. The creatures are bright and colorful and very well designed. They're very interesting, and a lot of them are cutesy. Now, I overall enjoyed the film. There are some pretty glaring issues. Throughout the entire movie, the CGI is pretty bad, which is weird because if you watch behind the scenes, they pretty much sculpt out every creature, and yet they use CGI for like 90% of the film, it looks like. And the CGI is pretty bad. The camera is obviously a digital camera, like an old digital camera, because this film looks like something shot in the early 2000s, not something within the last decade. There's not really any direction in this film. Murakami in the behind the scenes is very insecure about his directorial strengths, which Yoshihiro Nishimura, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I apologize. He's most notably known for movies like Hell Driver and Tokyo Gore Police. He was kind of the main reason Jellyfish Eyes got made. He was the one pushing Murakami to make a film, and this is what they came up with. A lot of the time, Murakami even says in the behind the scenes that he doesn't know what he's doing, and Yoshi kind of steps up, which I just want to call him for the rest of the video if I ever reference him again. And because of that, you kind of get these two weird styles. Seeing some of Yoshi's other films like Hell Driver and Tokyo Gore Police, you kind of have these action scenes that are kind of zany and pretty fun, but when it comes down to it, there's not really a lot of direction in this film. I think this film could easily be a lot higher elevated if Murakami was a little bit more confident. And while he does make a lot of artistic decisions when it comes to the character designs and things like that, I think a lot of that's lost in translation when it comes to framing and just directing together a scene. Well, that being said, I don't think the film is as bad as everybody says it is. The film has a lot of good messages in there, even if you kind of have to elaborate on them a little bit on your own. Yeah, the film doesn't really have a target audience. Jellyfish Eyes is pretty interesting. My personal favorite aspect of the film is the character designs. While the CGI does look a little bad, and I'm pretty forgiving when it comes to cheesy, bad CGI when it comes to movies like this, the character designs are great. A lot of them are cutesy and fun, some of them are horrifying, and I wouldn't say scary, but kind of horrifying, and it works. They feel like they're all connected to each other. They feel like they're within the same universe, or Pokédex, if you will, and it works really well. There's a lot of attention to detail to every one of the friends in the film, which is what they're called. Probably something if I was a little bit more coherent with making videos. The creatures in this movie are called friends. It's an acronym for basically, we're going to use these creatures to suck out your negative energy from the evil cult. The characters are really, really well designed, and I think that's where Murakami really shines, is the design aspect of this film. Yes, the cinematography leaves much to be desired, but it's also very serviceable. Another thing I really enjoyed about the film was the soundtrack. It's a fairly decent soundtrack, even though it is subtle. It's a fairly good soundtrack and it really fits the mood pretty well. I also really enjoyed the evil cult in this movie. They were kind of a nameless horde that you could imprint anything onto. But overall, I don't think the film is as bad as everyone seems to say it is. It's definitely not a boring movie, and there's a lot of really good ideas here, it's just not great execution. I can understand why some people wouldn't like this, but I don't understand the overwhelmingly negative reviews on this film. There's something here that is interesting, and I hope Murakami continues on making films, because I'm hoping he can kind of build that self-confidence up as he moves forward. When it comes to the long list of the Criterion collection, I definitely think Jellyfish Eyes is worth your time. I promise you, you're not really going to see anything quite like this movie.